Welcome back to Tusks Tales, the podcast where working dogs, wild stories, and the chase come alive. We're excited to announce some proud supporters who make this show possible. First up, we got HardcoreHogDogs.com. The name says it all, from cut vest to gear built for the roughest hunts. They're setting the standard for serious dog men and women. Reach out to Mr. Michael Spieler for the perfect vest or any gear for your dogs. And here's the kicker, y'all. Tell Mr. Michael you heard it on Tusks Tales and he'll hook you up with a discount code on your cut vest purchase. Next up, we got Boars and Broads, a brand that brings the hunt and the lifestyle together. It's not just about hogs, it's about community, family, and living the tradition. They've built one of the biggest brands in hog hunting, and we couldn't be more thankful for their support. Use discount code TNT at final checkout to receive your discount. That discount code again is TNT. T as in Tom, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom. And finally, A&M Kennels, just a husband and a wife who started with a dream and the drive to build something special. With the help of friends who stood beside them from the start, they continue to raise and work hounds that we're proud to stand behind. We're proud to have their support and proud to have you listening. Now let's get into today's episode.
We're hunting behind the house, turn him out. Man, it wasn't no time. He was bathed.
Yes,
and it was barely daylight. And I asked Larry, I said, do we really want to go catch this hog, or are you going to feed a few more dogs in and have a Well, we just turned more dogs in and had a real good race and never caught him again.
That's awesome. See, that's the stuff I like, and that's the stuff my buddy and I, we like the races. And granted, we do like sometimes, like yesterday, the real quick ending. But sometimes it's like it puts an end to our whole hunt when we're like, all right, we caught a hog. And then it's like, dang it, all right, let's go home. I mean, there's nothing better than a good race going in. And I would prefer, I'm going to say this, and I know a lot of people might not like it, Mr. Mike, but I do. I prefer a 4 to 5 hour race, even if it's a 80-pound pig. I don't care. As long as it was running and moving and kept them dogs going and finish it out, then them rigging and catching a hog or a show, piglet, hog, pig, whatever, however you want to word it, 75, 80 yards off the bank. I'm not big into having to catch a hog. I'm big into seeing them dogs work, and I love it. I mean, I do. People will get a little upset. I don't know from your end, but when you're starting out younger dogs that, help me out a little bit, maybe I'm doing it wrong. But when they get to running deer, so I get a little upset if I see them running deer at my younger dogs, but I don't get onto them. I don't discipline them. I don't tone them. I don't shock them. At young ages, I'm talking my 8-month-old ones that I'm running out now. I'm not sitting there doing any type of stuff like that. So is that a wrong approach, or should I start trash breaking them immediately of that? I'm more or less looking at they're hunting. I don't want to take that nose away from them.
Well, once they know running hogs is okay, I would never let them run a deer. I would.
Yes, sir.
I would be shocking them the minute you knew they were on a deer. And I'll go ahead and tell you how I break my dogs. It's been by far the easiest. And it's during deer season. I'll shoot a deer, bring it up to the kennels, put a short leash around that deer's neck, hook pups from 6 months old and up to it. And I'll just bump them a couple of times. Well, I do that, man, that deer's head's flopping. Every time that dog jerks back, that deer's head's flopping at him, and it scares the tar out of him. And if you do that a couple of times, that dog will never, ever want to run a deer or have anything to do with a deer.
I like that.
And here's the thing, too. A lot of people, they see deer, they'll throw their dogs out on them. As soon as the dogs are running, they shock them.
Yes, sir.
Well, I've seen dogs that wouldn't leave your feet after a couple of times that, So doing it the way I've done it, and I'm not saying it's the only way, but it's worked by far the best for me. It's under a controlled situation. And so it's, now if they're out in the woods and I know they're running a deer, yeah, I go ahead and burn them. But I quit turning dogs out on deer I see just because, it does. It'll take the range out of them. And another thing, too, a lot of times the more handle you put on a dog early, I think that'll take a lot of range out.
Yeah.
But,
if you're setting them up, most definitely not for success. I've noticed, like, if you're trying to get those free cast dogs, I want to free cast, I want to free cast, I want to free cast. Well, if you're constantly, in my opinion, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but you can correct this. If you're dropping them in no sign, I believe you're setting them up for failure. Am I wrong there, or?
Well, it all depends. I mean, it doesn't hurt to free cast them, there's places we free cast, because we know certain areas hold hogs, and it's tough to walk in, like some of these cutovers right on the creek and all. So we'll just free cast them. But, to me, having a handle on a dog will save its life. If they're approaching a highway, getting ready to cross a busy highway, every one of my dogs has tone broke. I mean, I don't feel bad at all. I would tone them off a hog. I've toned them off a bay before. But I do want them tone broke. We've got a place we hunt, and not far from Winfield. And it's about a 3, maybe 4,000 acre lease. But we've had dogs head for the highway or across the river where it's just about impossible to get to them. We tone them off.
Yes, sir.
My buddy, he had to tone 2 of his dogs off. I mean, a good bull. We had him on camera. One of his dogs was cut. We knew what hog it was, but there was so much backwater, there was no way to get to him. We didn't have a boat or canoe or anything, and no way to swim. They were 400 or 500 yards straight through the backwater, and you'd have to swim most of it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm a fairly good swimmer. I can swim better than I walk. I grew up in Florida. We lived on the beach. We water skied. We were always in the water.
Yes,
but that backwater with current running through it, no. And then you're trying to drag a bulldog with you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially, yes. Yep. I ain't got one completely, I get close-ish to the bay, but once you get there, I really got to put a lead on, a walk in. So, I know what you're saying. But, while we're on that, you're kind of talking a little obedience, Mr. Mike. Can you explain, so it's not coming from me, as you and I have talked previously, I've done a lot of lab training,
right.
and I know I was very successful in that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, but this hog world, like I said, I'm very new to. So it's not coming from me. Can you kind of inform other listeners coming from, a very seasoned hunter? I would consider you in the legendary category. How to tone break a hog dog?
Well, I start my bucks off on like a 75-foot ski rope, and I make it fun and games. I let them get out, ranging a little bit as far as that rope will go, and I'll call them. And if they come right to me, I'll tone them, and I'll give them a treat. And it normally doesn't take but a few times. When they hear that tone, they're coming to me for a treat,
Yes, sir.
But if they don't come, I'll bump them on a real low setting. And normally, the first time they're ever bumped, they freeze. They don't know what just happened.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And so I'll tone them and call them, and most of the time they'll come right on in.
Are you doing a momentary, or are you doing a continuous stimulation?
No, just a momentary.
Okay. I wanted to clarify that with a lot of this. So they don't. It's not like a force fetch process for anybody that knows lab wise. You're not sitting there holding continuous pressure onto your dog.
Correct.
Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah, and I love that advice, Mr. Mike. I've tried telling people that quite often. I'm assuming you have a relatively good handle on your bulldogs as well, correct?
On one of them I do. The other one's a work in progress.
Could you kind of touch base on both of them and maybe a little training advice kind of on the bulldog side? We don't have to stay on that one as long, forever. but just kind of touch on it if you don't mind.
Okay, well, like these particular bulldogs, me and a buddy of mine in Florida have bred them back and forth for probably 20 years or better. And, and we had to start doing that because, like 35 years ago, it was easy to find a bulldog. Then it got where, man, it was tough to find, a good bulldog. So we just started raising our own. And I've got a dog called Dagger. I think he's about 4 years old. He was off my female I called Bonnie. So anyway, and I mentioned this to you before, I used to be in labs. And,
yes,
so, from the time he was 8 weeks old, I was walking him on a leash, teaching him to sit, stay, come, and teaching him to jump. Because I'm at the age now, I don't want to be picking up a big dog. And, I'd back up to my kennels where it was only like the tailgate a foot above the cement. And I'd get him to jump in there, and feed him on the tailgate. And continued it higher and higher. Well, I might have done it too good because he can jump a 6-foot fence now. But, when we're in the side-by-side, he rides up top with two of the Plotts. And, he rides in the middle. So, but anyway, you can get all kind of videos or DVDs or whatever on obedience training, and that's all it takes. And it doesn't take a lot of time. You know this, maybe 15 minutes a day,
Yes, sir.
Putting through his paces. But the main thing is consistency. Now, the other bulldog I've got, and this is the second bulldog I've got like this. I gave my daughter took the litter, and she raised it in the house for years. Dog's house broken. He's an 80-pound pit. But she didn't really do anything as far as obedience training. And I got him, at a year old, she was moving. She couldn't keep him. And the first thing we did, we took him down to the hog pen and tried him. And, he caught that hog. Never seen a hog. It was just natural. He grabbed the ear, had it caught. I told Ethan, your mama's not getting him back. So, anyway, did all that. He sits, stays. Oh, and this dog retrieves as good as any lab you ever saw. You cannot wear him out. And the first time I learned this, I didn't know my daughter had been playing fetch with the dog. But Cheryl had her grandkids over, and this dog, he was going crazy on the chain, lunging. And I thought, oh, dang, this dog's mean with kids. Yeah. And, but the kid had a ball. He was flipping up and down. And so I went and got the ball from him. Well, as soon as I had the ball, his attention went right to me. I said, oh, that's it. It's the ball. So I told Cheryl and them to get in the kennel, and I let him off the leash. Man, he's jumping all around. He wanted that ball. So that was a big release. That's all he wanted to do was retrieve. So I still had some dummies left over. Anytime I want to exercise him, I'll, throw the dummies for him, let him go get them and bring them back.
That's awesome. I like to hear something like that. They're not all, and when we refer to bulldogs as well, I don't know on your end, bulldog is a very loose term used. I run pit bulls, American pit bull terriers, but a lot of people refer to them as bulldogs. Is yours a bulldog or what is yours exactly? Roughly, sorry.
These are pit bulls.
Okay, pit bulls.
My buddies always had, the Dagger line of weight pulling pit bulls and the bigger dogs. But, crossed into the dogs we've had, which we've always tried to keep big bulldogs too. And, they are great catch dogs. They've got the bite. And, out in the marsh, we like the bigger bulldogs because, there's no trees to get around, and those smaller dogs, we've had hogs dragging them smaller pits, right at us trying to get to us. But like that that bulldog, I call him Gator, that blue brindle dog. When I say he can manhandle a hog, he can do it. That hog's not going anywhere. And if we put two of them on him, for sure that hog's not going anywhere. But all my buddies now, they have pretty much that line of bulldogs, and we're in pretty good shape.
What size are you say? Yeah, they got it. They're got it held down. I mean, how much you think they're weighing?
Well, the Dagger dog, he weighs right at 70 pounds, and I knew that cross was going to make big dogs. I picked the smallest male, but he's got litter makes 90 to 100 pounds, and that's bigger than what I want. It's more dog than I can handle now. And Gator, he's bred just like Dagger, top and bottom. So, but that being said, I don't know if you've ever heard of Sloan Simmons, but I sold him a bulldog called Rhino. He's got the finest video I've seen. He sent Rhino in on, a big boar, and that boar was spinning. And Rhino's 85 pound dog.
Oh, wow.
Totally off his feet, but he never broke his hold, And you know how it is when a big hog's fresh and all.
Oh, yeah.
And I will say, Rhino wasn't in charge till his feet hit the ground.
So, who did you say that was again?
Sloan Simmons.
Sloan Simmons. No, I don't. I'm gonna have to do some research into them as well. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head who they are, but they're
a group of hog hunters out of Alabama. Real hard, young guys.
Okay. Yeah. No, I honestly haven't. I would like to do some research and kind of find out who they are. So, and all that. We've talked about the Plotts, your bulldogs a little bit as well. So, how do you balance? Like I said, I touched base on it a little bit earlier. How do you balance the drive and the control in your pack? Are you looking for more drive, or are you looking for more of a handle? I know, of course, everybody wants it to be dead center in the middle.
The Plotts are the bulldogs.
Let's start with Plotts, with the Plott Hounds.
Okay, well, the way we hunt, we track hunt, we cast hunt, and the dog's rig. We hunt about every way you can hunt except walking. The only walking I want to do is to a bay, and then we're still going to drive as close as possible. So, I've had friends come over and watch these dogs rig, and they say, man, that's like free hogs. They've never seen rig dogs work before. And it does. A good rig dog will put you on way more hogs that you might pass up. Going to a different area or something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, for sure. Because you didn't go out and look for that track, you know what I mean? Like, the dog... it's not like you went out and started hunting, scouting the area. The dog pretty much did it for you. They rigged it off the boat or the buggy or whatever and said, hey, look, Dad, stop, or they're right here.
Right. But that being said, rig dogs can miss a track if the wind's wrong or something. Me and a good buddy of mine, Terry, out of Florida, we hunt Georgia a good bit, bear hunting. If you want to see how many runnable tracks a good rig dog can miss, hunt sand roads. And that's where they've got a lot of sand roads. And so, rig dogs aren't foolproof. We're still looking for tracks. So, did I lose you?
No, sir. I got you.
So, anyway, it's like the marsh. Probably 90% of our hunting's all with rig dogs.
Yeah. And so back to the balance, and then you're gonna want. Are you wanting more drive on that? Since you're saying earlier, you did say marsh is relatively easier to get on hogs, but actually getting out there and trust me, I know I cannot stand the marsh, Mr. Mike. And I'm only 29. I absolutely cannot stand the marsh. It is just, and I'm a deer. Sorry, I'm a big duck hunter as well, waterfowl. running after a hog in the marsh is a lot different than trying to set a little decoy spread and letting your lab do the rest of the work.
Right.
I mean, yeah,
well, we try to stay on fairly hard marsh, and stay out of the real soft marsh where you sink up to your waist.
Yes, sir. That's, oh my goodness, I'm telling you, it's rough.
It doesn't always work. I mean, our dogs had a sow caught just 100 yards from us, but it was a wet marsh.
Yes, sir.
And it took close to 20 minutes to get to them. We were up to our waist. We could just lean forward and try to crawl, across it.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, with the the marsh an example, because I know from what I've heard you do a lot of marsh hunting. So is that? I mean, is that what you're wanting, or are you going to want a little bit more control on that dog, or more of a handle, or are you going to hope they have more drive? Or
well,
are you going to want to?
I like an even balance. Before Gorman and all, I used to wish those dogs didn't have so much stick and drive, because I'd be ready to go home and there was no way to get them back, unless you cut them off at the pass, But now with the Garmins, you can simply tone them in if you're ready to go.
Yeah, that does help a lot, and I mean, especially, even if that's all you got on that one, we can jump right into the next. That helps with the Bulldogs as well. You get a way better handle on them using them Garmins.
Right, and get back to like that Dagger dog. He'll walk off a leash to the bay, but normally I'll snap him up about 100 yards
from it
and walk in another 50 yards, then turn him loose. And but I made a mistake with Gator. I was having to shock him so much to get him to heel when he heard the bay. When we'd get within 40, 50 yards, he was afraid to go because he thought I was going to shock him.
And that's where that drive and control comes into play.
Right.
You're taking that drive out of him by trying to use too much control.
Exactly. So what I started doing with him is, I'd make him heel without a leash till we got like maybe 100 yards. Then I'd snap the leash on him, get up to 50 yards. Well, he knew when I unsnapped that leash, it was time to go. But now, I taught him back, and you know what back means.
Yes, sir.
And so I'll have by my side, and if I say back, that sucker's going,
That is all. I love that you say. For anybody in my waterfowl world that listens to this, I love that Mr. Mike said that. So for a lot of people that are hog hunters listening to this, back means go for a waterfowl dog. So that's awesome. And that's the same dog you just explained that is also the one that plays with the bumpers. Am I correct?
Right, that's correct.
I like that. That is awesome to hear, Mr. Mike. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. But yeah, from my end, I did have a couple Bulldogs. Unfortunately, they both passed this year in hog-induced injuries. But one of them I had a very, very, very decent handle on it. The other one was just hit or miss here and there. I would say a relatively decent handle. So, from my opinion, based off of what Mr. Mike said, I agree with it for a lot of you newcomers to realize the way he said that. If you listen to him, he specifically stated he was, given a little bit too much pressure going into him, and it took that drive out. And that's why I asked him about the drive and control, because that'll kind of help y'all. Don't think that, I got to go in there and shock. Now, why is my dog not catching? Well, it could be handler error, 100%. And Mr. Mike, I could be just speaking out of turn, but how many lab hunters have you seen do that, trying to do a force to pile or a force fetch and just ruin a dog?
Yes, I've seen a couple.
Yeah, it can happen quick. So the same thing in the hog world, you could do that in a heartbeat. Same thing with, tone broke, like he said. I can go into one of those on a later episode. I want to get a little bit more information out there from Mr. Mike. I ain't got nothing going. I'm going to keep talking with him as long as he wants to talk. But you mentioned we got into the gear and technology, Mr. Mike. The running Garmin's TT15s. 25s, X's, TT15X's, T5s, even the telemetry. I run 2 collars on my dogs. Now, I got to ask you this, because you were running hogs in the 80s as well. So, what's your opinion now on the modern tracking, the whole modern system we got, whether it's 25s, 15s, DC 50s, even DC 30s, whatever, versus the 100% old ways? I'm not even saying telemetry collars.
Right. Well, when they work, I love them, and that's why I always ran 2 collars too. Telemetry has never let me down. I've never left a dog in the woods with telemetry, but like everybody else, I've had collars fail, cut off, go dead for whatever reason. And we found a good buddy of mine's dog. He was running 2 collars, and he had turned the dog in, and they ran that hog maybe 2 miles and called it. Well, we're thinking all the dogs are at the hog. We get there, his dog's missing. Well, the garment was dead. He couldn't get, all he had was a question mark. So, we take care of the hog. We go all the way back using telemetry to find him. And there was a little ditch about 8 foot across, maybe waist deep. And the way his telemetry was, I told him, I said, a gator got that dog, because there's a lot of gators in that area, even though it was a cool day. And so he gets in the ditch. He's feeling with a stick, as he went along. Well, nothing. It showed he passed the dog up. So he gets out of the ditch, and it was like knee-deep water. He found the dog 15 feet off the ditch. His Garmin collar was underwater, but that telemetry still worked. And the only thing we could figure out what happened to the dog was it had a heart attack. It wasn't a mark on him, and so, but without telemetry, we would have never found that dog.
That's an awesome, and I love for people to hear that. That's kind of a quick topic. A lot of y'all coming into this, I would hope, has already done their research. Sorry, my wife just walked in, Mr. Mike. You've had the pleasure of meeting her.
Very nice.
Mr. Mike, hi.
Hi, Mr. Mike. How are you?
Hey, Marissa. So yeah, very, very nice lady.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. I appreciate it. I got off track a little bit. Sorry. With the tracking systems that you just mentioned, the telemetry. We started running 2 collars, specifically because we run your line of dogs. And as a matter of fact, we did just pick up one of those dogs in the middle of, where did we pick her up? Beaumont, in the middle of Beaumont, Texas, not too long ago. And at that time, I really wish, we lost her at, I don't even think she was over a mile on a Garmin. So that was kind of a learning experience that, hey, we need to make sure telemetries are on every single dog, because them telemetries, we haven't had a problem picking them up 4 or 5 miles away, ever.
Right. I had sent all my old telemetry collars in and traded them in for the tag-along collars. That way they were on the same collar, and that's worked real well, but I've got to send them back because they pretty much have all died.
Oh, wow. And who do you use for reference to everybody out there? I use Johnson Telemetry, but...
The same here.
Okay. Yeah, and go ahead, Mr. Mike, sorry.
Yeah, back in the day, I used Wildlife Materials and Johnson Telemetry.
Okay. Yeah, so for reference, everybody, telemetry-wise, if you got the long-range casting dogs, it cost us, for 5 collars, I believe, to get 16,000-hour batteries. It was just a little over $200, nothing crazy. And we're talking 16,000 hours. Mine still had battery charged, and Mr. Mike, I'm sure, can vouch for me, still had battery charged from 1992.
Well, that's the same, and that's why mine have gone dead. They took my old collars and just redid them into, the tag-along.
What's that? I'm sorry. I guess I'm not quite familiar with the term.
A telemetry collar that's made to slip on another collar, and slip it on the Garmin collar and
Okay.
have telemetry and Garmin on the same collar.
See, that's something new. I didn't know that. Is it? I mean, is it as good as the telemetry, or?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
You know,
I didn't know that.
and that way you don't. Back in the day when we used to have 3 or 4 collars on a dog. We had the regular collar, had a shot collar, had a telemetry collar, and then when the Garmin came out, we were always teasing each other. We got to breed longer necks on these dogs. We have so many collars on them. But now, I've got the regular collar, and I can put a Garmin and telemetry on the same collar.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and Mr. I don't know. I think he lives over by you, Mr. Mike Spieler with Hardcore.
Right. Yeah, he lives about 45 from me.
Yes, sir. He custom made everything for my vests and collars to be able to specifically fit a telemetry and a Garmin on it. And he's relatively fair price. I mean, I'm just for reference for people out there, if you're using cut collars and stuff, it'll get real congested on the neck and just it's weird, funky, and it's just weird. But he was able to help me on that.
Right. Yeah. Mike's good people. I've known him a while. I bought stuff from him and all, and just an all around good guy.
Yes, sir. He was very informative with us. We like I said, we've lost a few dogs this year, and they were wearing gear. I'm not going to get too deep into that. It had nothing to do with Mike's gear at all. But while we're on this gear topic, I wanted to ask you, other than collars, like get collars out of the topic. I mean, what else would you tell people to bring for a safe for a essential? What would you consider? Sorry, I'm trying to word it right. Essential for a safe and successful hunt. What would be a necessity?
Well, just good equipment. I don't know. No matter how much you prepare, there's always the unexpected. Like dog crossing the road, gets hit on the highway, or somebody picks up your dog, or something like that. I actually had to track a dog across New Orleans, right to these people's house, to find a dog that they picked up, and that happened to me twice. We were hunting the Bonnet Spillway, and the dogs were running a hog, and when we're ended up picking up the dogs, I had one missing. Well, I tried to track him with telemetry. I couldn't find him. Couldn't get a beat. Well, we're driving home, and there's an overpass by the airport. Well, I had that antenna out the window, and I got a beat. We went 6 miles right to this guy's house. I'm walking down the road trying to pinpoint what house the dog's at. Well, this guy's neighbor saw me and asked me what I was doing. I said, I'm looking for my dog. He came up missing, and I'm tracking him. He's got a telemetry collar. Then I had to explain what a telemetry collar was. And he says, yeah, my neighbor brought a dog in. And so we went and knocked on the door. He wasn't home. But I could hear the dog in the back because she heard me calling her. And I told the neighbor, I said, look, this is my dog. I'm taking her home with me. So we opened the gate, got the dog. I showed him the nameplate on the dog, but the telemetry collar wasn't on it. It was in the house.
They took it off.
Yeah, so he gave me the guy's name. Well, I took the dog home. I called him that night, and he had all day to call. He never did. And I told him, I said, look, we're going back hunting the next morning. Put that collar in your mailbox. I want it. I was aggravated all the way around.
Yes, sir.
And and the first thing he pretty much asked, well, how did you find me? Because he didn't know what telemetry collars were. And I told him I tracked him from that collar. And my nameplate was on both those collars, on the dog. But, he never called. And anyway, I got the dog back. Bottom line, the same thing happened. We were hunting the West Bank. And you know, when we get to the dogs, you know, after we caught the hog, I had a dog missing. So and you know, this is way back before cell phones. So I'm tracking.
Way back before cell phones.
Yeah. So I got a beep on the dog. This dog was across a big canal in a residential neighborhood. We tracked to the house. I knocked on the door. Well, that lady had already called my house. You know, she said the dog came out in the road. She didn't want it to get hit. She had good intentions. So anyway, I got the dog from her. I thanked her, you know, and all that. And anyway, by the time I got home, my wife told me, you know, that the lady called that she had my dog, you know. So that all worked out good. But
that's a real good story. I like to hear that. That it ended up working out in your favor. It sucks when stuff like that. We've had that happen to where, you know, someone, and actually they let us hunt all their property now. But they found our dog and they were like, man, this dog looks starved. Y'all are, you know, abusing it. And we're like, well, the dog's been missing for 3 days. That's what made us go get telemetries. And
right.
Luckily, you know, and I got to tell everybody, and I'm sure Mr. Mike will agree with me, make sure your name and information is on every dog when you cut it loose. Do you agree with me or not, Mr. Mike?
I agree, and I'll go as far as to say, if you've got a good dog, Mike will chip it. Get him registered.
Yes, sir. And you do. I mean, I do it as well. I'm pretty sure you do. My wife said when she was over there at your house that you have dogs that are also freeze branded.
Right, yes.
Yes, sir. And we do the same thing here. And you can register your brands with the county as well. So if a dog does go missing, ends up somewhere, and they're like, what is this? Instead of, and some people don't have social media to be able to look out. They can run it through the county and find out who the owner is of that brand and bring that dog to you.
Right. And I wasn't aware of that they still registered brands, but I should have known because, you know, of all the cattle operations around.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and I mean, don't quote me on, of course, freeze brand, but I mean, I would think it would be equivalent to a hot brand. You know, I don't think they'd be like, oh, this is a freeze brand. We're not gonna. In other states, I'm speaking for us, but I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to give false information. So if I'm wrong, y'all correct me. But I'm pretty sure that it doesn't matter if it's a freeze brand or hot brand. Do not go and hot brand your dogs. But a freeze brand my wife and I got a freeze brand done to ourselves. Exactly the same marks we marked our dogs. So a freeze brand does not hurt by any means. It is very painless.
I'll take your word on that.
Yes, sir. We did. Both my wife and I. We got them in the same exact. Everything. We're big on everything we're going to do to a dog we do to ourselves before. That's just always been our rule. Whether it's using a TT system on 16 or using it on 4. I mean, you shouldn't have to use it on 16, but you know, I've done all that to myself before I put anything on my dog. And Mr. Mike, that brings me into a huge subject. And if it's a little touchy, you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. You don't have to. But like I said, I do everything I do to myself before I do it to a dog. Now, I think I want to be correct because I've listened to a lot of tapes, Ben Lilly tapes, right, on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
And I've listened to every single one of them. And I don't want to draw a blank and give you the wrong information, but like he says, he's going in to do anything his dogs will do. Are you in agreement with that, or, I mean, how do you feel about that statement? Because I really feel like I do. I honestly believe I do myself.
Well, I'm going to back my dogs up as much as possible. If I can get to them, I'm getting to them.
Yes, sir.
You know, they've done their part. It's up to me to do my part. And I don't know if that's exactly what you're referring to.
Yeah. That's what I was. So more or less, what I like. That's exactly what I mean, I'm not trying to tell you to, say it. I'm just asking. I want other people's opinions because some people are like, well, man, you only got 2 dogs in there and your bulldog's really struggling. Why are you trying to jump in there and hog and put yourself in harm's way? And I'm like, I've told grown men, my wife, and you've met her, so for reference, you know how small she is. I have witnessed this woman, and I'm telling her, no, we're going to pull up on the hog. She will jump out in the middle of the Sabine River or wherever we are. If it's quicker for her to swim there than it is for me to pull up, she's jumping out in the water and she's gonna catch that hog. And I honestly feel like less of a man sometimes because I'm like, I'm gonna get there. That's what I'm saying, Mr. Mike. If you're wanting to be a hog dogger, and what I'm asking you for advice towards them, if you're gonna be necessarily scared and not willing to back your dogs up, maybe it's not the right thing to do because your dogs can get in a situation where they're not gonna come off that hog, and then what are you gonna do? You know what I'm saying?
Now I know exactly what you're saying, and and you know, with age, most of these guys that I hunt with are at the bay before me, but I've gotten lucky a couple of times where the hog either turned and I was able to grab the hog, you know, but it's, let's start with, say, 10 years back, 60 on. If my dog caught a hog, I was in there to him. I don't care what it took.
Yes,
You know, I'm going to grab that hog as soon as he catches. Pretty much, you know, because we'll normally turn bulldogs loose from like 30 yards away, and most of our bays are, thick cutovers, so a lot of crawling's involved.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, I'm going to be there.
So yeah, and guys, like Mr. Mike said, you said you're going to be 70 soon, right?
Right, next month.
Yes, sir. So a lot of y'all that are listening to this, I'm not referring to y'all, older gentlemen by saying you're not a man because you're not going to go in there and catch your hogs. We're talking social media now, Mr. Mike. You know how they're going to respond.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. Like, Mr. Mike's got an excuse. He's up there in age. He's not like dying age, but he's just older. And it's not easy for them older guys to get in there, and they rely on younger guys like us to get to bays. And I just, if you're new to it, this is what I'm really trying to promote in a lot of this, is get y'all information. If you're new to it, then and you're kind of skeptical about going in there, kind of rethink your decisions, because you can come face to face with a freaking monster hog, and then you're in a really bad situation if you actually care about your dogs, because you potentially could not get them out of there. They might hold on to that if you ain't got a good enough handle on them, and then just exert their energy and just be done.
Well, let's see, I lost my train of thought for a minute, having a senior moment. But, I see so many people just standing there videoing.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's fine if you've got one person designated to video, but we're not worried about video, and we want to get the hog down on the side as quick as possible, so the dogs don't get injured.
Yeah, and like he said, I agree with that to 110%. The reason, and I just touched on this a little bit, I am the world's absolute worst camera person. My buddy and I yesterday did it, and I tried recording it, and I have like 4 seconds of them dogs bayed, and my phone's in my pocket completely underwater because I had to jump in water. The hog was in the water getting caught by him, and that's just a little good example. Like Mike said, we're worried about catching the hog. I was getting that as I'm coming up. Once it's time to catch that hog, that phone is in my pocket, and the rest of the video is just water, and you can't hear nothing because I'm underwater. I'm not swimming, but I'm underwater. And I like that. We covered that a little bit because I don't want y'all to get the wrong impression thinking that every time you go out it's going to be a nice little shoulder or a nice sow that's just going to be easy to catch, and then you get in a dilemma. I don't want you to put yourself in a bind out there.
Well, and nobody likes hog hunt videos more than me, especially a lot of those Australian videos. They are fantastic, but don't let your dog suffer just to make a video. Have somebody else video while you just go in and catch the hog. But
yes.
Kind of speaking of bad places to catch a hog in, I tell you, the worst place we used to hunt on the West Bank in Lower Algiers. They had old army bunkers there. Well, we had dogs that got bayed, and it's dark. You can't see in there. We're hunting in the daytime. We don't have lights. And anyway, we could hear them barking in there. We turned the bulldog loose, and we had to go in by sound, and this was a good boar hog. But we got the hog, got him thrown down, and drug him out where we could look at him. And if we'd have known how big he was, we probably wouldn't have gone in there. But you gotta back up your dogs.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm definitely not disagreeing with you on any of that. Like I said, I'm glad you informed people of that as well, that you have to be, yeah, like my wife just said, that's a very good way to put it. You got to be as gritty, don't say as gritty as your dogs, because you could put yourself in a very bad situation. But you got to have some type of balls, to be honest, to go in there. I don't mean to put it that way, but if you're a timid man and kind of scared of the woods just a little bit, I don't recommend going in and doing stuff like this.
Well, here's another thing. Back when I was in my 20s up to 40s, I'm a horseshoer by trade. And I can pretty well pick my hours. I used to hunt a lot by myself, and to me, it's no big deal. Go and catch the hog, get him tied, or tie him off to a tree, get your dogs off, and then tie him up the rest of the way. But it was probably 2 years ago I made a solo hunt out there behind the house. And my dogs, in their natural style, made a hog on the other side of the creek. So, and they were up on high ground, and that would have been fine if they stayed up on high ground. But when I turned the bulldog loose and he hit the hog, it's about 175 pounds sow. They all tumbled down in the creek. Well, there I was in waist deep water, and with the hog, there's no way I could pull that hog, up the bank. So I had to go ahead and kill her.
Yeah.
And and I really do hate to kill, especially the sows. But now,
yes, sir,
they're making it so hard on people. The law, you pretty much have to kill them now.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Luckily, I mean, there's places you of course you don't have to, but I mean, even Louisiana's requiring transport license.
Right.
I mean, it's just, I mean, that kind of brings up the, kind of the next topic, I guess. How do you keep that tradition alive with the new modern times? How are you keeping hog hunting? Is it getting worse or getting better? I guess I need to say. How do you feel it is right now?
It's good getting worse. As far as trying to save hogs and all, and there's a lot of, like I said, in the younger days, I hated to kill a hog. I mean, like a lot of most people don't know that Louisiana had an importation of Russian boar in the early 70s, and we took those hogs, moved them around. This is before it was taboo to transplant hogs.
Uh-huh.
There was still a lot of open range around. But anyway, as getting into like the 90s, there were places we could hog hunt, but we had to kill the hogs. That was the only way they allowed us in.
Yes, sir.
So we had to change our way of thinking if we wanted to hunt. And that's pretty much from 2000 on up. That's the way it's been. Like the management areas, you have to kill them. There's a couple of leases that the deer hunters want the sows killed, but they'll let us bar the boars.
Yeah.
So that's but for the most part now, you pretty well have to kill them.
Yeah. You're not wrong, and it sucks. I hate to, Mr. Mike, I'm bad on that. I'm not gonna self-incriminate, but you know what I'm telling you without telling you. I'm not big on it, and I think the 370, we caught a 375 pounder, and the only reason we did take that one was because it did end up killing one of our bulldogs. That was my wife and I's wedding morning that happened.
Wow.
Yes, sir. It was a great story. But yeah, I mean that's what I was really curious about. Especially for me and us new guys coming up. I want to know if it's honestly getting worse based off of the laws or even the people coming into it. I don't want I'm not trying to badmouth any names or anything, but have you noticed, the people coming into the sport as well?
Well, all the newcomers now, all they want to do is kill hogs. They don't realize most of the hogs they're hunting now were put there by somebody else. And, and that's how they learn. You can't hardly blame them. Catch a hog, you kill it. That's the law.
Yes, sir.
And I've got a good buddy of mine that's been hunting with us for about 10 years, and he just happened to come hunt with us, the month of February when we were hunting management areas, and we killed everything. So he got kind of bloodthirsty. Now I got to caution him. I said, look, you don't have to kill this hog right off the bat. Let's wait and see what we have. but anyway, most of the newcomers seem to have that mentality. Catch him, you kill him,
Yes, sir. Yeah, and I've noticed that a lot, and it's, I don't know, and I guess that kind of puts me even back into the duck world. I didn't really I harvest my waterfowl, but that wasn't it for me. It was watching my dog actually do the work, and that's what put me to hog hunting is certain states you have a catch and release tactic. I mean, you can do that like fishing.
Yeah.
And that's what I really, really love about it. I want your opinion, kind of on the newcomers coming up. I know a lot of them are, like kill it, but.
Well, some of them are good, really good people. They want to get into it. They want to do it for the dogs. But there's a lot of others I've seen that, all they want to do is just, I wouldn't say just kill everything and all, but they're in it for the wrong reasons.
Okay, let me ask you that. Your definition of the wrong. So, I don't mean to cut you off if you were talking, but it just struck a huge topic I kind of wanted to cover real quick is getting into it fresh and brand new, Well,
a lot of it is, a lot of the newcomers come in, they don't have any respect. They'll backdoor you. They're going to go where they want. They give the honest hog hunters a bad name.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And so, there's always that. You talk about, trying to help newcomers out. Well, the problem is, when you've been burned several times, you don't want to bring any newcomers in.
Yes, sir.
So
I'm not disagreeing with you. I like coming out of the waterfowl world. I agree with you. When you say backdoor, for everybody listening, backdoor means he had property or I had property. We've hunted it, and they either sneak behind you and go hunt that property, or they try to talk to the landowners and get that property permission.
Right.
Am I covering that correctly, Mr. Mike?
Yeah, pretty much. And the thing of it is, every hog hunter out there has trespassed going to his dogs.
Oh, yeah.
It's just the way it is. But, if you're halfway responsible, you're going to try to get the landowner's permission to go in and retrieve your dogs. And if that doesn't happen, you need to call the game warden to go in there with you.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
But it's, like, to give you an idea, I used to never sell puppies. Like I keep my friends supplied with dogs, and I give away the rest. Well, they had this kid. He was about maybe 17, 18 years old. He wanted to get started in hog dogs. I gave him 4 Plott puppies. A month later, they were on Facebook for sale. So that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. When something like that happens.
Yes, sir. I did. I heard you. I did hear you cover that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have, I'm not disagreeing with you. I've seen that, even out of people I've let breed to my lab world male dogs, and I've seen it to where like, oh, they see what I can make off of one, so then they like double the price because they have gyps out of it, and they're using your name pretty much. It's like, dang it, really? So I mean I get where you're coming at with that.
Well, and here's the thing too: if they buy a dog from me, that's their dog. They can do anything they want, And I'm not against people breeding the dogs I've sold them as long as they prove the dogs out.
Yeah.
Breed good dogs. Don't breed sorry dogs just because they've got a name. And that being said, I have calls just like everybody else.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I don't know of anybody breeding 100% litters that work out every litter all the time.
I think that's probably impossible. I hate to say that, but it doesn't matter what world you're in. It's any kind of dog hunting. I believe that's you're not going to have 100% success rate.
Right.
I really don't believe that at all. I mean, with this topic going on, then how do you feel about the critics? I mean, the people that sit behind and they absolutely degrade hog hunters. Hog hunters have a really bad reputation, Mr. Mike. If you look outside of here, outside of, you and I talking, and that I'm really trying to get unity going, and I'm trying to get everybody to really get along. You have split worlds, whether it's, I'm in this hog world, I'm in this hog world, and I like I said, I'm not name dropping, but they fight amongst each other, and then you have the outside world looking into these hog hunters, and it's very bad. When I went to Kansas, Mr. Mike, the past listeners listened to the last one, and I went to Kansas. It was very depressing to hear what they thought about hog hunters. They treat dogs like crap. They don't feed them. They don't blah 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 blah. And that was a disgrace. I was like, you are kidding me. So then I started thinking about doing these podcasts, trying to get information out there to like, hey, man, if you're in a bind, contact so-and-so. They can kind of help you. How do you feel about the critics? Sorry, I don't want to get on a spiel about it.
Okay, well, to go way, way back, I was probably 18 or 19 when I quit caring what anybody had to say negative. I could just care less. It doesn't mean anything to me. They can say what they want. There's always going to be jealous people out there. There's always going to be people against hunting. So you just basically got to ignore them unless they're intrude on your personal space.
Yes, sir. Yeah, but what about us as a community, as a hog community? Don't you think there should be more unity and not as much animosity going around?
There's probably more animosity and jealous people in the hog dog world than any other dogs. But, all this happens in all walks of life. The horse business, showing you ought to see the backstabbing that goes in there.
Really?
And it's really, like take a lab. That lab's got to perform,
Yes, sir.
But, it's like the old buddy system in the horse business and other walks of life. It's not what you know or what your dog can do. It's who you know.
Wow.
So
I get what you're saying. I do. I really wish we could unite a little bit more and get people to get along. The bear community don't seem like they're
just bad. Trust me.
Oh, they are? Okay. Sorry. Well, I was like, man, I try to follow some bear. I'm not a bear hunter. I've never ran a bear dog, but I tried to do some research, and I didn't see as much drama going on, and it just, I don't know. I think I'm trying to shoot in the dark for something that's never going to happen.
Okay, well, let me take that back. I wouldn't say the bear dog people are as bad. Some of the best people I've ever met were through these Plott dogs, and they've, provided me places to hunt all over the country and out of the country. So, speaking of that, we didn't talk about the places I've hunted, and it's all been due to good friends.
Yes, sir.
But, I used to bear hunt in Florida when Florida had a season, Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Virginia. I hunted in Quebec when they had a dog season, hunted in Ontario a lot, Sweden, and Arizona. So, like I said, I'll travel to bear hunt, but I won't hardly travel anymore to hog hunt.
Yes, sir. I'm trying to get out. I've been trying. I love meeting up with new people, Mr. Mike, and like the critics, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of it. the people we have traveled and hunted with in different states, it was kind of started out as like a little bit of drama. And I was like, okay, I'll bring my dogs. Like, I'm not a bad person. I want to hang out, talk, whatever. And we ended up being really good friends after. So I think from having that happen and we're all getting along, I just tried taking it a step further. And that's why I'm doing, I want to get new people information. I want to try to make unity, get people to get along. And the sport could just grow and be a huge success. But I mean, I don't want to get too far off into all that, Mr. Mike. But what okay.
Well, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, sir.
And I don't want to sound like a negative old guy, but I wish the hog hunting would quit growing. To me, there's way too many hog hunters, wannabe hog hunters out there, and there's just not enough property to support everybody. But I mean, that's just my way of thinking.
No, you're correct. And when you say property, I mean that brings up you're just hammering them out, going in order. We're not on no script or nothing. But when you say property, I love that you mentioned that, because I know in one of the ones I did that I listened to you, more research I did on you. You spoke about deer. So you spoke about how Louisiana did a deer study. They stuck tracking systems on the deer, I believe, to kind of see what was pushed out of the area. And what I'm getting at is deer lease, like people who are on deer leases are pushing more and more hog hunters out of the area because they blame hog dogs on it. Am I going in the right direction, or am I making...
You are.
Okay.
And I don't remember if it was Texas A&M that did the study, but it was back in the 80s where they radio collared deer, and they would put dogs on them. Without fail, those deer were always back in their home territory within 10 or 12 hours. And, you know this, you can't run a deer off, but you go in and put pressure on hogs, they're leaving.
Yes, sir.
They'll come back eventually, but you say you go in the hunt an area for 3 or 4 days, those hogs are moving out of there. I can promise you that.
Yeah. So, like you just said that. Now, deer-wise, for like a garment, a little telltale sign is, and I've noticed a lot, I could be wrong, if you think you're running deer, is your dog's just doing loops after loop after loop. Is that wrong, Mr. Mike, or?
That's pretty well correct. Now, a good buck, he can take it out of the country if he wants. I used to have running walkers belong to a club in Alabama, and we found those walker dogs as far as 20, 25 miles away would get calls on them.
Oh, wow.
And, that was way before telemetry. So, it was run dogs in the morning and hunt them all afternoon,
Yes, sir. Yeah. That's awesome. I just remembered you did do a, you mentioned some statistics about that. Now, I mean, I don't want to keep you too much longer, Mr. Mike. I want to, we've already hit over 2 hours here. So I would like to, one thing I really want to touch on, I'm going to put you on the spot, and I want to see if you'll be able to answer it, because I don't think anybody's ever asked you. Your ultimate, you have to pick one dog, period. Just one dog. What is your best dog and why? In history, period. Any dog.
Oh, man. If I could pick 3, that would be a lot easier. But I'll go ahead and pick one.
One. I know it makes it a lot harder.
Yeah. That would be the trapper dog. He just made everything look so easy, and I made a post a while back on what separates the elite dogs from other good dogs. And, the common denominator in, say, those 3 good dogs I had was their undying determination to run the game down. They had that all-day stamina to just keep pushing. And, my dogs, when they're in shape, they'll run all day and half the night sometimes. But I'm talking about, say, soft dogs. These dogs could still run all day. And they might not hunt the next day, but they just were so gamey and just so determined, to run the game down.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know if it's just stamina that separates the good ones. Because I've had a lot of dogs that had cold nose, fast grit, but they just didn't have that same determination to really just keep pushing until they brought the game to bay.
That is, yeah. I'm glad you answered that, because I've looked and looked and looked. I mean, the research I've done on you, I've kind of caught wind on maybe it was the trapper dog, but I wasn't sure, so I really had to. So, I mean, you did say you wish it was the top three, so what are the top three?
I had a gyp called Blackie. She was a straight wings bred dog, and she had it all, but her main quality, this gyp was super fast. And normally, I was doing a lot of bear hunting. And in fact, I lived in Minnesota, and I'd run over to Wisconsin 3 or 4 days a week and hunt. But once the bear was jumped, she'd get so far ahead of the other dogs, she would either have the bear treat or bait on the ground by the time the other dogs called up. And this friend of ours, he's deceased now, Greg Michaels, he used to go to Canada with us, but he called her a problem dog. And I told him, I said, she's not the problem. It's the dogs that can't keep up are the problem. But
yeah.
I mean, she was just a freak for speed, and she had that all-day stamina. I had a dog called Red Man. That was Joe Hudson breed, straight Shamrock. And it would be tough to pick between the three, I picked because you made me pick. But
yeah.
That Red dog, when I say a cast dog, and you know how you get dogs out of the truck, to turn them loose, they're pissing and crapping all over everything.
Yes, sir. Yeah, always.
This dog would already be a quarter mile in and bait, and there were a lot of times we'd turn him into a block, would leave him and go hunt another block because we knew he'd either be bait or running by the time we got back to him. But, those dogs just made everything easy, and, they could get bait quick, and they were every one of them was open cold trailing.
Yeah.
But they bait a ton of hogs. And, that's another thing. I think, and I've got a lot of Plotts that are guilty of this, they put too much pressure on the hog trying to catch them. And if it's a big one, they might not be able to hold them, so they make the hog break.
Right, yes, sir.
It takes a smart dog to know exactly how far back to stand or not put pressure to bait hogs consistently.
Yes, sir.
And I've always called it, some dogs just had the touch. They know exactly what they're doing. Baying hogs just comes natural.
Yes, sir. I like that, Mr. Mike. I mean, I want to get you on the phone again. I want to get you. I would love to do it in person. One day, I really would. I got one final question for you. If you got anything else you want to say, though, please say it before I go into this final question. We're going to go ahead and shut her down. If you got anything to say, you let me know.
No, I'm good, so what's your final question?
Final question. Okay, so if you had one memory, or not just memory, one story or anything, outlook you would want everybody to know you for, what would it be?
Well, basically I've just tried my best to breed the best dogs I can, and I try to treat people the way I want to be treated. So, that pretty simple, but that's basically about it.
No, that's fair. You're pretty much saying, you want people to be honest to other people about what kind of dogs they're getting. Then to piggyback on that again, Mr. Mike, how honest he is, if he knows you're looking for a dog, Mr. Mike has reached out to me one-on-one because he's seen me comment on one and said, hey, man, just make sure you're hunting with this dog before you spend that kind of money. We're not name-dropping or nothing, but that's the kind of guy he is. Even though that's his line, that is Bayou Cajun. I was reaching out to a gentleman wanting to buy this dog, and it was a lot of money. We're talking a lot of money. And Mr. Mike reached out to me when he seen me comment, and he said, hey, by the way, make sure you hunt with that dog before you spend some money like that. And I'm so thankful he sent that to me because it didn't end up happening. I did not end up getting that dog. And the saddest part is this is how much I love these Bayou Cajun Plotts is I was willing to spend that money just because I knew who it came from. I know their capabilities. Well, not, of course, a year and a half's worth. I'm not saying a lifetime's capabilities, Mr. Mike. I don't want you to get the wrong. But how they've worked out for me in a short period amount of time has worked out very, very, very successfully and very, very, very well. So I don't want to make it think like or make people think that I'm finishing out these dogs and I've been doing it for 7 years or 20 years and I got 8, 9, 10-year-old dogs just doing it left and right. You know, I'm talking younger dogs I have doing some good work, you know, and I believe, Mr. Mike, you say it in one of yours, you know, you say the best dogs are the ones that are in the woods more.
Right, yeah. That's, and this was years ago. This kid was stewing about what puppy he wanted, which one was going to make the best dog. And I told him the one that's hunted the most.
Yeah.
So that's, and that pretty well holds true. You know, it might be true in all situations, but normally the one that has the most woods time, they're going to show out over the others. Yes,
sir. Yes, sir. Well, Mr. Mike, I mean, that's all I got. I think it went very well. I mean, I do. Is there anything else you have left to say to anybody?
Yeah, Adam, I appreciate it, you know, and you taking the time to do this. And tell Marissa I said hello.
Yes, sir. I will do so. I'm going to go ahead and